I think the more interesting story is this Nokia deal.
All right, let's move on to the Nokia had their announcement today as well, and their announcement involved no phones. It was Stephen Elop on stage defending the decision they announced on Friday to partner up with Windows Phone 7 as their future strategy.
It was a classic. Did you watch the whole thing? I watched the entire event.
I watched most of it. I had it on while I was working, so I missed a few pieces of it.
I'll tell you, I took some notes. Of course, I didn't bring it with me. You know, I think, for one thing, Elop is very much, he's got the same cadence and style of Bill Gates when he speaks. And there's a certain cadence that comes out of Microsoft that is you know, it's just Microsoft-y. And I've run into a bunch of these guys, and they come out of Microsoft as executives, and they go to other companies, and they do the same thing. They have all these ideas, and they think that they're going to be successful with them. But I'm always thinking they never seem to get it, that when they were at Microsoft, they were part of a monopoly company that really didn't have to do a lot of, you know, original thinking. And they didn't have to make the right decision. The right decision at Microsoft was, let's don't kill Office. Yeah. And let's don't kill Windows. And that's it. That's the only decision you have to make. Anything else you do is just, is gravy. And
so do you think this is not a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's not a good idea. I think they should have at least, although nobody asked the question, I was very disappointed in the media, because they didn't ask the question of Elop whether or not they kept the option for Android open. He did mention that they're keeping...
Doesn't sound that way.
Doesn't sound that way, but he did keep the Migo option open, so it's a possibility.
Yeah, what they did is they said, we're going to partner up with Microsoft. They're going to give us Windows Phone 7. We're going to give them NavTech mapping. And it's going to be a tight partnership. We'll be able to actually change the interface, which nobody else has been able to do. Symbian becomes what they call a franchise platform, which I guess is Finnish for we're phasing it out.
Right, exactly.
And then Migo becomes a research and development platform. They're going to put out one Migo device this year, and he kept saying today in his announcement, and it's going to be the disruptive platform of the future. We're saving it for disruptive stuff. I don't know what that means at all.
Well, the other thing, anyway, there's a couple things going on in Finland. There's a walkout at a couple of the factories. The employees are irked about this guy and the whole process. And there's a term going around around Finland called GOOF, GOOF, and it refers to get out of Finland, because everybody believes that that Microsoft is either going to do a deal and either buy most of Nokia and outsource it to China, and pretty much closed down, killing 150,000 jobs in Finland. This is what they believe in Finland. And so this is problematic, because if you've been to Finland, or if you study how the Finns think, it's not very compatible with Microsoft the way they think in Redmond, Washington. It's just culturally different. I think this guy should have taken a little more cultural anthropology. I think there's a lot of issues here. I think this is going to be fun to watch what happens. I mean, I hope they're successful, but I doubt if they will be. And I also think they're going to... I'm
surprised, because I think if Nokia doesn't evolve in this way, there's no way they're going to stay alive. I mean, Microsoft excels at getting their software out on devices, whether it's Windows or Windows Phone 7 or whatever platform they're trying to spread across the world. That's what they do best. And Nokia has been making hardware forever, and they make more hardware for phones than I think anyone else in the world at this point. So the idea of getting Windows Phone 7 on Nokia devices across the world, I think it makes perfect sense for both brands. It may not be good for the people in Finland, but
I'll ask a couple of questions then. One, why can't they do the same thing with Android, which has apps, and we're in the world of apps, and Microsoft has none. They have 8,000, I think.
They're growing apps, though, and they're going to absorb all the apps from Nokia into their store.
It's weak. Also. Anyway, your argument, how would that not apply exactly the same way to Android? Without the royalties that you have to pay Microsoft for the operating system, which adds to the bottom line.
They tried to go to Android, and it didn't work out. They couldn't work out a deal.
They said that Microsoft has offered them billions of dollars.
Well, that's
and
always
then
a plus.
And they said that they couldn't work out a deal with Android. And then today, Elop said, our first priority is beating Android, which sounds to me like somebody who got pissed off over negotiations and is turning against them. Although they also said that they didn't want to take Android because it would make Android too big.
Yeah, well, there's another element. There's a political element. The European Union, specifically, made a big stink about, oh, God, if these guys go to Android, then it's going to be a duopoly. with Apple and Android, and we can't have that because we know the EU hates American companies to begin with. Of course, then Microsoft, they hate them too, but what else could they do? I think they should have maybe done something, I don't know, but maybe altogether different, which they're not going to. Here's what the problem is, as far as I'm concerned, is that the Windows 7 phone, straight up, in straight competition with Android and the iPhone, shows no traction. Now,
I disagree.
Well, I mean, I'm just reading
the
monthly numbers. Apparently, they sold a whole bunch of phones right off the bat, and then the thing went dead flat after they filled the channel up.
They haven't released any numbers. They haven't released any numbers. No,
there's some research companies that have said, I'll have to dig this up now, apparently, to back up my own story. But there's
see, when Microsoft has a hit, they release numbers and they trumpet them, and they have not released any numbers here. And I think that that they are not selling these at all. When you use one of these phones, when you use a Windows phone, it's a great phone to use it. But you know, the problem is that no one's going to try it in the era of Android and in the era of the iPhone. I don't know necessarily that the race is over, but you got two companies that in terms of mobile have become clueless, and they're drowning, and they're trying to cling to each other in order to survive. And there's no indication that they'll do better together than they would have separately. They won't be any faster. They won't be any more agile. And they're not going to have the same kind of mind share that Android and Apple do at the moment.
I kind of disagree on that, because I think, like I said earlier, Nokia makes really good hardware, and they've got the reach worldwide, and Windows makes good mobile software. I think so anyway. And so I think the combination is actually a really good fit. And I think it makes the most sense for both of them to kind of go into a partnership together, and their powers combined, they're Captain Cell Phone, I don't know. But, Nokia didn't do a great job of making smartphones these days that people really fell in love with. And, maybe with the combination of Windows Phone 7, it'll be something that they can do going forward. Because, I mean, there aren't going to be, feature phones are the way of the past. It's smartphones and even lower price smartphones going forward. And Windows, Microsoft can make that happen for them.
Well, like the Indians like to say, 2 turkeys don't make an eagle.
Oh, that was Vic Gundatra from Google.
Is that
who said that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, the Google guy.
Which I think he is Indian by descent.
It could be. Well, I think it's Egyptian Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Veronica, time will tell, but I think that you're barking up the wrong tree with this thinking. I could be.
I think you are.
Yeah, I know you think I am.
All right, let me.
Obviously,
I'll play peacemaker. Veronica has a point in that the way where smartphones are going is the cheap feature phones are going to replace by cheap smartphones.
Yep.
Nokia is very good at that. Right. That's what I said. Right. And so
everybody says
that at that point, if Microsoft and Nokia execute well, they can pull it off. The problem is, and this is what I said, is that they have not executed well on either of these lately up to now. And whether they can do it together is a big question. And they can't be agile, and they can't be swift. They're too big.
Is the problem with the Nokia N95 and the N97 the operating system or the hardware?
I think it's the operating system more than anything.
If it's more the operating system, then I think Windows Phone could help save them.
The hardware's good.
If it's hardware
the
problem.
Hardware's fine, but the point is people don't make these associations. They don't take a piece, something that doesn't work, and say, well, I think that the software is defective and the hardware is fantastic. And I don't think people are even paying that much attention to any of these phones anymore, except what they can do. And I think people are going for they're going for the buzz of the hundreds of thousands of apps. And the whole app idea has been kind of rejected by Nokia from the get-go. And it has largely by Microsoft with their kind of defensive posture. Well, everything's included, and we're doing it our own way, and this app thing is overrated, and all the rest of it, because nobody. And I say the same thing with Palm and the rest of these guys who don't have the apps.
But the reason that people make so many apps is because the devices are distributed over millions of different people. If Windows has the opportunity to get on more handsets, then that means that more people are going to be willing to develop for Windows Phone 7 platform.
Well, in your defense, I will say this: everyone that I've been in contact with that does apps, they claim that the development kit for Windows Phone is better than anything ever done by anybody. So you can really crank apps out. But then again, it's like at this point you got you're a little bit behind in this, in this race. It's like starting way late.
Yeah, Microsoft is doing what Apple did at the beginning, controlling the platform, limiting features. Apple didn't allow third-party apps at first. Microsoft's at least allowing them, but keeping a tight control over it. Which, okay, that's all fine and that's all well and good, but at this point, you're 4 years behind the game. So I'm not sure how fast you can catch up.
And Microsoft's not known as a rabbit.
We're looking at another Microsoft Zune, possibly, where they have Microsoft Zune's a fantastic
product
competitor for the iPod.
Yeah, no, it's a great product, and I think Veronica's being swayed by the fact, and a lot of other people, that this Windows Phone is a nice phone. It works well. It's just well designed. It's a Zune phone, just like the Zune.
Yeah.
But I think there's a jinx involved here. These guys are too little, too late. They're not marketing this stuff right. They have a bad reputation. People actually want to hate them, and I think it's doomed.
I think they've got a big marketing problem, and Nokia isn't any better at it than Microsoft is.
And they never will, because they're Finnish guys.
You mentioned the N97 and the N98, and other than kind of like the people on the show and geeks, your mom doesn't know about the Nokia N97 and 98. They have no idea how to market this stuff.
But they've heard of Nokia
Microsoft
before.
Is losing its Microsoft mojo, its marketing mojo. I think they've been terrible at trying to market the Windows Phone 7, and I think that probably the two of them together, maybe they might make a complete marketer. I don't know.
I think
two turkeys do not make an eagle.
But two bicycle makers can learn to fly. That was Stephen Elop's response, by the way.
Oh,
if your mom goes into the
bicycle
store and she
makers
sees two Windows Phone 7 devices, and one's a Nokia and one's an HTC, which is one of my favorite manufacturers, by the way, which one is she going to pick? I mean, Nokia's got this brand name recognition, too, that I think is really powerful, and I think a lot of the general population is familiar with that brand and comfortable with it, and if they want to get their first smartphone, low-price-end smartphone, maybe the Nokia will be the choice for them.
I remember 15 years ago, there was another big brand that had this fantastic reputation, actually better than Nokia's at the time, which was Ericsson. And now they're just, they partnered up with Sony. They did the same thing. They panicked and partnered with somebody that's not them.
But we just saw two great phones coming out on Sony Ericsson.
Yeah, they're great, but I'm telling you, people, they'll buy an iPhone. What do you use, by the way, Veronica?
iPhone.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What was that?
iPhone.
Oh, okay, just wondering.
So, John, have you tried a Windows Phone 7 device and put your Facebook credentials in?
I don't use Facebook.
Well, if you did,
sorry,
you would see that Facebook is deeply integrated throughout Windows Phone 7.
Well, I'm glad you told me that, Dwight, because I sure never know it with all the great marketing they're doing.
Right. Their marketing is awful. But if you're looking for a phone where Facebook is thoroughly integrated, it becomes your contact list. Your Facebook updates appear on the live tiles on the home screen. You can use your Facebook contacts to dial the phone. It does a lot of what the INQ phone does, but it doesn't put Facebook up, so front with branding.
I think I would like that better, for sure.
Well, you're a big fan, obviously. I want to see you dump that iPhone and get one of these Windows phones, and then I'll pay more attention. I
like the HD7. I think is a beautiful phone. I would consider switching to it.
Are you going to?
Maybe.
No, she's not doing. She's not budging.
She's not gonna.
She's just a troublemaker.
Maybe I will. You don't know.
Wow, that's a stare.
Giving you the look. Giving somebody the look. No, I don't even know what I'm talking about, to be honest about it.
I'm just saying words.